This is the terrifying story of the Hicks family, who experienced something that can only be described as paranormal. In December 2023, in a quiet suburb outside of Chicago, the Hicks family moved into a seemingly perfect home. But what they didn't know was that the house had a dark past, and they would soon feel the presence of something far beyond their understanding. Shortly after moving in, strange things began happening. Doors that were closed tightly at night would be found wide open in the morning. The family's dog, a golden retriever, would bark furiously at empty corners of the room. But it wasn't until young Emily Hicks, the 14-year-old daughter, had her first encounter that things took a terrifying turn. Late one night, Emily was in her bedroom, the only light coming from the flickering glow of her phone. As she scrolled through social media, she felt an overwhelming sensation of being watched. Looking up from her phone, she froze. Standing in the corner of her room was a figure. It wasn't fully formed, but she could make out a shadowy figure, a man in a dark coat, his face obscured by the dim light. Terrified, Emily turned on the light, but when she did, the figure vanished. She ran out of the room, but the eerie feeling stayed with her for days. As days turned into weeks, more unsettling incidents occurred. Emily wasn't the only one feeling the presence. Her parents, Sarah and James, both reported hearing footsteps in the hallway late at night. The footsteps would come closer to their bedroom door, but no one was ever there when they opened it. One night, Sarah awoke to see a shadow moving just outside the bedroom window, slowly pacing back and forth. When she called out to her husband, it disappeared. James, a skeptic at first, began experiencing strange dreams. He dreamt of a man standing in the hallway, watching him sleep. In one dream, the man spoke to him, whispering, "You are not alone here." It wasn't long before the same man appeared to him awake, always lurking in the corner of his vision, never fully in view. Desperate and frightened, the Hicks family called in a local paranormal investigator, Thomas Reed, who had experience with haunted houses. When he arrived, he immediately sensed something wrong. Using his equipment, he recorded strange, high-pitched sounds and captured cold spots in several areas of the house, particularly in Emily's room, where the figure had first been seen. Reed conducted a thorough investigation and uncovered that the house had a tragic past. Years before, a man named Samuel Jones had lived in the home. Samuel was known to be a recluse, rarely seen by neighbors. He had died under mysterious circumstances, with no family to claim his body. It was said that he had been obsessed with the idea of never being forgotten, and his spirit remained tethered to the house. Reed conducted a thorough investigation and uncovered that the house had a tragic past. Years before, a man named Samuel Jones had lived in the home. Samuel was known to be a recluse, rarely seen by neighbors. He had died under mysterious circumstances, with no family to claim his body. It was said that he had been obsessed with the idea of never being forgotten, and his spirit remained tethered to the house. One evening, as the Hicks family gathered in the living room, Emily suddenly screamed. When her parents rushed to her side, they saw her pointing at the corner of the room. There, in the shadowy darkness, stood the figure of the man, Samuel Jones. His face was no longer obscured. His eyes, hollow and filled with sorrow, stared directly at them. Emily described him as having an eerie calmness, as if he were waiting for something. James, now completely terrified, decided to confront the spirit. He shouted at it to leave his family alone, but instead, the figure advanced toward him. It was at that moment that the room grew colder than ever before, and the lights flickered wildly. In a final act of desperation, James grabbed a family heirloom, a silver pendant that had been passed down through generations, and placed it on the floor in front of the figure. To everyone's shock, the figure stopped. It stared at the pendant for a long moment, then slowly faded away, leaving the room eerily quiet. The Hicks family, though shaken, felt a sense of peace return to the house after that encounter. The figure never returned. They decided to have the house blessed by a local priest, just to be safe. Since then, they have lived without further disturbances, but they will never forget the sensation of being watched and the presence that once haunted their home. Was Samuel Jones seeking to be remembered? Or was he a restless spirit, bound by something darker?
There's a place in Milwaukee where no one stays for long. Tenants come and go, some after just a few nights. The rent is cheap, the walls are thin, and behind one locked door is a secret no one talks about. This is the story of a man who thought he found a bargain. But what he really found was something that refuses to let go. In November 2021, James Ellis moved into a one-bedroom apartment in a rundown building in Milwaukee. He'd just gone through a tough breakup and needed a place, fast. The landlord barely said a word. Just handed him the keys and mentioned, "Last guy left real sudden." The rent was cheap. Too cheap. The first night, James noticed a faint burnt smell, like old smoke, but there was no source. He checked the oven, the walls, even the hallway. Nothing. Then came the flickering lights. Always in the bathroom and bedroom, never the kitchen. Once, while brushing his teeth, the light blinked off for just a second, and in the mirror, he swore he saw someone standing behind him. A week later, he discovered the closet. It was locked tight, and the landlord had no key. "Don't worry about it," he said. "It's just storage." But James couldn't let it go. One night, he heard a woman crying. Clear as day. It sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. Or the closet. James pried up a floorboard near the heater to check for wiring issues, and found a note, yellowed and torn. It said, "It wasn't an accident. He locked me in here. Please don't let him lie." When James asked around, a neighbor told him the truth. There was a fire 2 years earlier. A young woman died, burned alive in the unit James was now renting. The landlord claimed she had been smoking in bed. But others say she was locked in that closet. James finally broke it open. Inside, he found a burned journal, stuck between wall panels. The last entry, "I hear him. He won't let me leave. If someone finds this, help me." That night, the crying returned. But this time it turned into screaming. Furniture shook. Every light in the apartment died. Then, A whisper in his ear, "You opened the door. Now you stay." James ran. Left everything behind. But 2 weeks later, his friend received a voicemail from his number. Just static. And a faint voice, "Don't go. You're mine now." They never found James again. His apartment was rented out a month later. We trust our homes to protect us. But what if the walls remember? What if something, or someone, never left?
Imagine going to sleep every night, thinking you're alone. But someone is quietly living above you, creeping through your home when you're not looking.
This is not a horror movie, this is a real story. And tonight, I'll tell you how a man discovered the nightmare living inside his own house. This story happened in 2008, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A man named Jeremy lived alone in a quiet house. He wasn't the kind of person who believed in ghosts or scary stories. But something was happening in his home. It started small. Some food missing from the fridge. A carton of juice lower than he remembered. A sandwich he thought he didn't eat. At first, he thought he was just tired, maybe forgetting. But it kept happening. He started noticing the TV was on when he came home. The bathroom light was left on. Doors he knew he closed were now open. Then one night, as he lay in bed, he heard a sound. Not outside. Above him. In the attic. But when he checked, nothing. Finally, to prove he wasn't crazy, he set up a small hidden camera in the living room before leaving for work. What he saw would change his life forever. The footage showed, in the middle of the night, a woman crawling out of the vent in the ceiling. She wasn't breaking in. She wasn't sneaking through windows. She had been living in his attic for almost an entire year. She would crawl down when he was at work, eat his food, use his bathroom, watch TV, and sometimes she would stand next to his bed and just watch him sleep. When police arrested her, she confessed. She said she had no home, and one day, months ago, she found the attic hatch unlocked. So she climbed in and never left. Jeremy thought he was safe, but the whole time, someone was quietly living inside his home. This is not a ghost story, this is real, and it's a reminder. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's outside your home, it's what's already inside.